Hello, welcome back to Ones of the Forces Stars podcast. My name is Phill, of course. I'm joined as usual by Dave, and unfortunately absent for our Mandalorian breakdown. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, my friend and brother in the Force. How are you doing, sir?
I am very good myself. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, it's been a crazy weekend of seeing awesome things, and we've discussed this episode at nauseam, I think, over our chat over the last couple of days. But looking forward to actually talking about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, so George has had his 6th day of busyness week. I was at a con yesterday as Kanan, so I unfortunately was available, and Cos Days had his own stuff. So we're unfortunately having this episode on a Sunday as per usual. It should be on Saturday. We'll be back for our Saturday show next week. However, of course, we are back now today. So, episode in general, before we go into story, before we go into plot lines and everything else, overall thoughts on this episode in a little brief way.
For me, the weakest of the episodes that we've had so far, and I think we'll come at this a lot later, that we didn't get enough story from me over the visuals that we had, which, don't get me wrong, had me smiling all the way through this. So I'm not going to a place where I didn't enjoy this. Everything I saw made me smile and beamed at a lot of stuff on this. But for me personally, didn't do enough in the actual episode.
So, I have to admit, I completely agree. I'm not even a little less pessimistic, in fact, probably, but it's more, again, it's that thought of nostalgia was great. However, there wasn't enough story in this episode for me. And one of the characters, which we'll get onto in a minute, I felt was far too wasted. I think they had a lot they could have offered to the series. In fact, they could have been a recurring character quite easily, in my opinion. So there was some good points there, and we're definitely going to get into it. So this episode, I think it missed the mark on what could have been a great episode. There are definitely points where you could put and go, if this was extended, or if this had been better, or if we'd had this element of story in it, this would have been a great episode. However, it's what I said to you before we came on air. The fact that this is the first episode the three of us have gone air, and this is kind of weak, it shows how strong the series has been overall so far. This has been a quality episode. There's still some good points in it. And yet, because of how high quality the first 4 have been, this one just seems that it's a bit less so. And that's not to say that it's bad. It's just it hasn't reached the heights the rest of them have. And we were saying, compared to the worst episode of Resistance or Rebels or Clone Wars, this is on a par with a lot of the good ones, so it's still not even that bad in the overall scheme of things. And of course, every show at some point lays an egg in one episode. They can't all be great. If they were, it would be, well, phenomenal. But anyway, that's not to say we haven't got some good points to talk about. We'll go through it. It's a very short episode, this one. Again, it's 31 minutes, this one.
31, I think, yeah, once they took out the pre-credits and the after credits, which, can I just say before we do get in this, the after credits, please, if you are watching these episodes and are cutting them off as soon as the story finishes, please stay back for the artwork that is over the end credits, because you get some phenomenal artwork put across by the artists who've imagined this series. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't always, on TV shows, stay for the credits. I mean,
Yeah.
I usually skip through. This is the only show, to my memory of late, that I've stayed through all the credits. Partly because after the pre-credits, I'll get into the artwork in just a second. After that, it's how I discovered the Paz Vizsla thing before anyone else really thought about it, because I'd showed it to you guys before. You like, well, where did you see that? I was like, the past credits, because I listened to the music, because a theme, I love it so much. It's like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and listen to it. Why would I turn off this music? It's great. I mean, Ludwig Göransson has done a spectacular job with this show. We've all three of us have said this. We love in the soundtrack so far. But yes, the artwork you get and that pre-credit parts is just beautiful. So yes, I completely agree with you on that one. But yeah, might as well jump into it. So that this is a 31-minute episode. It's not particularly long. So we go back to Tatooine. This one, the show opens up, of course, with that beautiful little dogfight above Tatooine, which I do love. This shot here is fantastic, especially with the I could bring you in cold, I could bring you in warm, because that's my line, and just annihilates him. I thought it was a great way to open the show. Again, Dave, the models, the CG, the blend between the two, you got to admit, this was just visually stunning.
It opens up and it's Star Wars straight away. There's no question about it. I love that this is back in the old format of how they shot the ships, and the motion, the way they've got it all is all on rigs and against a blue screen. But again, that's an actual model. That's not CGI, obviously, with the fire and things added, of course. But it was nice to see an actual dogfight, which we haven't had in this series. And it's nice to get actually opening up the episode, and we kind of continue on from where we were, because even though we don't know how long ago he left the planet he was on in the last one where they destroyed the ATST, but it's nice that we know he's still being chased for the child. He's still a wanted man, and it was nice to get that straight in your face at the very start before we got to our destination.
Yeah, and then so our destination, of course, this time around being the ever so classical, where is our shot here? Being Tatooine. I mean, so of course, as soon as it panned down to this, that's episode 4. That is A New Hope opening right there. That's nostalgia. And we're going to bring up one of George's points early, because I think it's actually kind of good to bring it here at this point. Very valid. George said to us he thought that Tatooine should have been saved for first appearance in Kenobi. And I actually am inclined to agree. I think, Dave, you agree as well on that one.
Absolutely. I think we know we're getting a Kenobi series, and of course, he's in between episodes 3 and 4, so you know he's going to be watching over Luke. So I would have thought a big part of it would be him and his involvement around Tatooine, and probably again around Mos Eisley. Maybe Mos Espa again would come into that as well. So I think it would be nice to give that welcome back to Tatooine with the Obi-Wan series. I think it would have felt like a kind of a warmer introduction to it. I think people would expect it with that. Don't get us wrong, as soon as I saw, like you say, when it panned down and you saw Tatooine and the two sons, it was like, oh, we're going to Tatooine. And I smiled, because you're right, it's literally that shot from the opening of A New Hope when the ship flies over. And I was in nostalgia heaven the minute it happened. Honestly, I have not smiled more than I did in this episode, and that's a good thing and maybe a bad thing at the same time.
Indeed. So we've got a comment here to say, good evening, guys, from John Parton. Good evening, John. Always nice to have you along for the ride. So I was wondering, Mos Eisley is a small spaceport. That was the cantina, right? Yes. From all intents and purposes, from the exterior to the interior to the whole setup, and even the way they shot the actual cantina itself, yes, it was the cantina. If you're watching the show for nostalgia's sake, this was the episode for you. It really was proper nostalgia. And we'll get onto the cantina in a second. But again, just to go back to what you were saying, Dave, again, it's that Mos Eisley. I think I would have preferred this episode if they hadn't have used Mos Eisley. If they'd used a different location in Tatooine. Doesn't have to be Mos Espa, doesn't have to be anywhere we've been to before. If it had been Tatooine, that's fine. If they then go somewhere else, just to give it a different feel would have been nice to then kind of tie it in. It gives it, at that point, it just makes it its own instead of going immediately back to A New Hope.
Nothing that happened in the episode made it need to be on Tatooine. The getting the speeders, the finding... sorry, I forgot her name. Who when played?
Fennec Shard.
Fennec Shard. So to find her and a standoff between them, there's nothing in there again that said to me this has to be on Tatooine. There's no purpose to be on that planet. I would have preferred it to be any other planet, like a new planet. I don't really want to revisit of loads of different planets on this, but I didn't need this to be Mos Eisley. Tatooine.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't want a huge amount of revisitation, pure just because I like them to go in different directions. This was a nice one to start with. And actually, though, to have a point on this, and we are going to talk about this, so we're going to go to the canteen now, and I want to talk about, where's our branding here on the side? I want to talk about this particular scene right here. Partly because I find it hilarious how the whole thing in the original trilogy is no droids. There's a droid surfing here, which I think that's Filoni's little joke there, which I'm completely fine with. This whole scene here where he's talking about a guild job, or not a guild job. We know that Tatooine was run by the Hutts, Jabba the Hutt in particular, but it was a Hutt cartel controlled planet. So to have him go there made sense story-wise if he thought he could get a job that was also in the Outer Rim and away from prying eyes. So I can understand why logically they would use it. But again, a different location would have been better. Even if there was Tatooine, they could have saved that cantina for Kenobi. Imagine if watching Kenobi and they go to that canteen, the impact is just going to be bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. There's no need again for it to be that cantina. I'm so glad they didn't land at Docking Bay 94. Was my one saving grace. They parked in a different docking bay, because when he was going down, that was the one thing I kind of then expected. Like, oh no, if we go to that docking bay and you're at that cantina, that would have been too. So I'm really glad they stayed out of that. It was again beautiful things like the sign outside Docking Bay 34 in that exact font that they have in the original, in the New Hope. And I loved seeing, again, visually, this thing, again, I'll say it out, it just made me smile, made me happy. It was just the underlying story. Once you've watched the episode like two, 3 times, you go, oh, but yeah, I still love what I'm saying.
This is the first episode I've only ever watched once.
Yeah.
I watched it twice because my parents are loving it, and they're now actually getting flights after me to go to America so they can watch it and come back, so they can fit in better with their work schedule. They're loving it, and I am loving I'm loving the show. But this is the first episode I've not immediately wanted to go back and rewatch. And I think again, I really want to go back to what you said there about it being Docking Bay 34 over 94. If they had gone back to Docking Bay 94, I wouldn't have turned it off, but I would have just, again, that feeling of just, you've just gone too much here. It's not even fan service at that point. You've gone beyond fan service into cliche. At this point, it feels it's fan service, but cliche is not what we wanted.
No, absolutely not. And you're right. There was just a lot in this from the start that did that. I mean, there's the shot I'm going to put up now. Just of this coming in, and we know that's the cliff that Luke, Ben stood on in the A New Hope. That's the actual cliff. That's where they were looking out over at Mos Eisley. And it was just like, that's the direct flight path for everyone coming across to see that cliff. It was like, again, first time, massive smiles watching it happen. But yeah, it was just, it maybe after third and fourth watch, it's like, oh, you know what, that's unnecessary.
I've only watched it the once. So I've only watched it the once. Like, I haven't got that yearning to go back. Unfortunately, the villain, again, is the other reason why I can't. I just can't. In fact, funny enough, got a friend of mine, Matt, who is a friend of the show, friend of mine, good friend of mine, who, funny enough, isn't watching our show currently, but is actually currently messaging me about the episode because he's just watched it. So it's like, okay, please come watch our show. And he's saying it feels like Diet Han. And I'm like, Diet Solo. I'm like, again, completely agree.
Nailed it.
So that's why I said you watch our show, because again, it feels like that. So I want to go back into it. So talking about, Glan's Documentary 34. Got to talk about our lovely little hostess here. She was I actually loved her in this episode. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, unfortunately. She was fantastic in this episode. I thought she was great. But it's these little guys right here. Oh. I know there's no droids, but pit droids. These guys made me smile.
And why wouldn't you? I think George as well, when we were watching the episode, obviously we'd have a live chat while it was going on. This one, the first thing that George stood out, he said he watched like 5 minutes. He was like, oh my God. And it was when the pit droid showed up. And again, you know that Dave Filoni is in charge of some of these things when stuff from episode 1 and all the prequels start showing up. But I really like seeing pit droids here. We're in Tatooine. It would make absolute logical sense for them to be helping out in a garage.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. It's just bringing back the Three Stooges feel of the prequels, especially those pit droids. It's nice to bring them into this era because, of course, they weren't in the original trilogy. They were created for the prequels by George Lucas. And I love them in the prequels. They're one of my favorite parts of episode 1 just because of that Three Stooges. There's no dialogue. They're just funny. But also they serve a purpose. And, of course, when you hit them, they just go into their little bowl and all the rest of it. It's just fantastic. So it's good to see them. Actually, funny enough, again, really good point here from Matt, as I talk about saying, the moment when he saw the canteen with both feet on the table, at the same table, and he mentioned Corellia, was, again, a bit too much. And I have to completely agree.
We all kind of agreed before we've come on, George, as well, that this guy is probably the weakest link in the episode actor-wise. Story-wise or character-wise, I think we're going to get on to the lack of usage of a character, which is kind of really underplayed an actor's been given a role. But this guy, for me, you're right. He was Toru Calican, played by Jake Canaval. I don't know if this was how he was directed that made him be like this, but it was just, unfortunately for me, he was budget Han Solo.
Budget Han Solo, but not even budget Han Solo. He was almost budget Dash Rendar. He was almost budget wise. If you know what I mean.
I put this in my conversation with in the panel. I don't know. It feels like someone who auditioned for Solo for the role of Han, and it was someone who didn't get the role, and they've been kept on record as saying we need someone who's going to play that kind of character. This guy auditioned for Han in Solo. We've got him. Let's bring him in. And that's what it felt to me like someone who'd tried for the part, didn't get it, and was maybe not as good as they would have liked for that film. And then he got this role. And that's exactly what it felt like me. If he'd been in Solo as Solo, I still would have maybe felt like, not quite what they should have got. But I can see how he would have
No,
gone for that
no.
part.
If they put him in Solo as Solo, it would have not worked. Aaron Aldenreich played Solo much better than I gave him credit for beforehand. Love him as Solo. I thought he did a great job. He's not Harrison Ford, but no one's Harrison Ford except Harrison Ford. No, if Jake had given Jake kind of given this performance as Solo, I would not have.
But yeah, you can see what I mean, though, by if he
completely
felt
agree.
like he'd auditioned for Solo, not got that and been kept on record,
I mean,
is the kind of feeling I had of him.
I want to talk about this particular scene right here. Again, nostalgia, and going to talk about this bit as well. Just the interactions. The Mandalorian has that same interaction with him that I think the audience has of just, you're just irritating, will you just shut up? And I think, unfortunately, it ruined the episode for me. He was just irritating.
Yeah, the feel that the Mandalorian was kind of knew this bright little kid who wanted to play in the bounty hunter world, and he wanted to bring in, and how he wanted him to work. And the Mandalorian was always going to play this his way and not how this other guy wanted it to go. It was never going to go that way. Somewhere under there, he was always going to end up with the money that was coming out of that job, even though he'd been promised it. I don't think he would have given it up had the job gone down the way it was supposed to. So I think he would have ended up, spoiler alert, at the end of the episode, getting rid of him anyway. But yeah, it's just, it kind of hampered the episode for me as well. I do want to go back to the shot you just brought up as well with the two Tusken Raiders. Did it feel to you it felt like members of the 501st in costume doing these? They didn't quite feel right to me. The body language and the way they stood and their movement felt like, I don't know, it didn't feel like professionals in there. Is an odd thing to say. I don't know, but that just felt to me, they just felt a little off.
No, the 501st were brought in for a different thing. No, again, I completely agree. The Tuskens were, the sign language I found interesting, and the scene was funny, but in retrospect, why? That's all I could think of was why. It didn't really make a huge amount of sense. Tusken Raiders had this mystique around them. They were slaughtered by Anakin in episode 2, sorry. Yeah, again, completely agree with George's comment here. So he's on his way home. He is listening to the show. So he should have hired his dad as the role, not the celebrity's son. Again, it was completely underwhelming. But yeah, so the Tusken Raiders had this mystique surrounding them. In episode 4, they nearly beat the crap out of Luke. In fact, they do. In episode 1, they're trying to shoot down the pod racers because it's fun. And in this, they just feel almost like a comedy relief, and that's unnecessary. The Tusken Raiders are cool characters that, if you use them in the right way, just have this aura around them of just, we don't know much, and this was a little too much.
Yeah, these are raiders who come in the night and kidnap people. Shmi got taken in the night because she didn't get back to the homestead quick enough at nighttime, was taken by the Tusken Raiders. These weren't those Tusken Raiders. Now, I guess we can kind of go back to one of the points we had, like Tatooine and Mos Eisley. It is certainly not the hive of scum and villainy it once was. You can see the decline of a town. Like, look, let's put it like it is in the UK. You can see a lot of high streets that are closing down and just getting cheaper, and there's not a lot there. This feels like since the Hutt influence was maybe taken out, the Empire were obviously then driven out, as obviously the Stormtrooper helmets on spikes on the pikes kind of show you. This is now a place on real hard times. Like this is not where everyone goes. This is not where your general villainy will be found. That the Mandalorian was even able to find someone in the guild who was hanging around, I think, is probably a luck thing more than anything else.
Yeah, but that's the reason why he was there. That's the whole point. He's there to try and find work, but at the same time, he was there out of necessity because of his ship being damaged. He was there because it's out of the way and no one's there anymore. That's his reasoning. Remember, he's being hunted down. So there's a good reason why he was in Tatooine. There's a good reason why they're showing it being run down. But again, didn't have to be Mos Eisley. If you put it in somewhere else, it works. It's just, again, that whole feel of nostalgia. But there are good, there are things I love about it, and one of those reasons is, yeah, it is run down because, as you said, the Empire's gone, the Hutts are gone. He's there for a reason. He's not going to be as found. It is quieter. He's there for a reason. So there are some good points behind it, but again, just too much on the nostalgia front. And as I said, the Tusken Raiders, I felt they just it was too much.
Didn't work for me,
However,
that, yeah.
I want to go back to this. I want to go on to our next point here of the Dewback. It was good to see the Dewback again. We're not seeing Dewback in, I think, since episode 4. I don't think they've actually been included at all. Maybe in episode 1?
There may have been a Ronto walks past the screen. I don't remember Dewback at all, actually. Qui-Gon rides the Obi thing with the long neck. So no, I don't think we have seen one since the New Hope, the Banthas in Return of the Jedi. So I don't think we have at all.
Yeah, so this was a nice cool little callback there. And this is where, for me, the episode starts to fall apart in a way, because at this particular moment, they are here watching this Bantha and goes, look, at this moment, Fennec Shand is on the other side of the valley. She's got the high ground, which we'll get into a second, of that funny callback that didn't need to be in there, but again, it's kind of cool. We know she's on the other side. We know if we go across now, we will be killed. We will lose. Yeah, we will lose. We need to be smart about this. We need to do this as good as we can, of course. So we might as well talk about her now. This is Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec. She was, at this point, she has the mystique around her of being this hunter, this bounty hunter, that as an assassin who, if you cross it, if you do wrong, she will take you out. There's no questions asked. And this particular point, she's built up to be this big threat that I don't think she materializes into being.
No, not at all. Her having the high ground. There was a few throwaway lines in this that were repeats. He's no good to me dead was also said as well.
I forgot that on purpose, I must admit, because that was but that was one of those lines of, no, that belongs to Boba Fett. I'm not a huge Fett fan. I've always stood by that of I like Boba Fett, but I never bought into the character and that level that some people have. That's fine. That I have my own favorite characters, and George and I go back and forth on Asajj a few times, and everyone has their different favorite character. I love Boba Fett, just not to the same extent other people do. But that line is Boba Fett's. You don't reuse that. The high ground is the high ground as a joke is okay at best. Whereas this, I must admit, I vehemently disagree with them using it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the usage of that. And yes, right, yeah, they've got the high ground, but it's not like him saying it for that reason. It was made as a joke, so people who are watching it will be like, oh yeah, that's from that movie that time. They said the line from the movie. And I say, you know what? Just you don't need it. The show is so good and operates on a level that you don't need to be dropping this in for us. We're in this for the 8 episodes you've given us. We have loved the first 4 episodes you've given us. Just keep giving us more of that. You don't need all this old Star Wars throwaway to entice us more.
Yeah, completely agree. Again, it's that line for me was the one bit I just cringed at, because I love Filoni, I love his work, but everyone lays an egg every now and again. This particular episode felt like this was just too much on that line. And the high ground was a good, again, it was used in this way in a good example of, this is why you don't do stupid things, Anakin, of jumping over people, because if they have the high ground, they will win. So this was, I was okay with it and using it for that particular sense. But again, so talk about this, they know that she's on the other side, they know they need to go across somehow and get to her. She can see them, she knows what's going on. They both know the game at this point. They have to go across at night. And they do. And they get there. And they manage to easily subdue her. Now, again, it felt... The fight was okay, but what came afterwards was what disappointed me, and what I felt is how they completely wasted Ming-Na Wen's character. Fennec Shand was built up to be this badass assassin that will get out of any situation. And the Mandalorian is sent off to go and collect... right,
because one of the speeders has been shot. She shot the first speeder as they crossed the sands, trying to get to her, so they were down to one speeder, so they can only carry 2 people. And then she does the ultimate bad guy sin of explaining her whole plan about getting the Mandalorian, and then she's shot in the stomach. And
she's surprised about it. I mean, that's the lowest part of it. I think we have it as well in one of our shots. I may have put it up. I may not have uploaded that one. No, I forgot to upload that one. I was looking at... I was also a Baby Yoda. Not particularly... Yeah. Unfortunately, there again, George is... got another comment here saying the episode begins with him checking off someone stealing his line, proceeds to steal others. Yep, completely, yeah, completely agree there. So yeah, the fight again. So they get there. He has to go and get his ride, and she does the ultimate bad guy sort of explaining her plans, as you said, and it just goes wrong, and she is killed. And
Yeah.
she's again surprised about this fact, and it just feels it's bad guy 101. Anyone who ever has read a story in any universe, in any fiction, will still know that you're not supposed to tell someone what you're going to do. And it's not surprising, again, she goes, okay, here is some details. You would expect to give away some details to kind of persuade him to help her out, but then, of course, then he kills her. And this is the problem. So we'll talk about her body later on because it is a big point. But at this particular point, she's built up to be a badass assassin who then is easily taken out and then gets shot. She could have been a really good recurring character, a really good recurring villain that nearly takes out the Mandalorian here. If she had taken out Toro, what's his name? Toro Calican. If she'd taken him out and escaped and nearly taken out the Mandalorian, she could have been a great recurring character that could have given him a lot of trouble over the coming adventures. And they took her out, and I just felt it was a complete waste.
She has about, in total, I would think, 4 minutes screen time, if that, from the shot of him seeing her to her actual being dead. I would make it no more than that in total. And you're right, I think it's such a way. She's a massive Star Wars fan. She's shown her fandom right throughout her career, and to then kind of just do away with that in half an episode seems, like you say, just a real waste of talent. And that's what she is. She would have brought to a role a really good actress into the second series, and whether we go on from there, like it's, yeah, I was really disappointed at the usage of her in this instance.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of maybe it was a contractual thing or something that she could be brought further, but it just felt a complete waste that she could have been more. And yes, she said she's just displayed her fandom over the years, and she's made no bones about it. She wants to be in Star Wars, and give her this role is great, but it felt like she was wasted. And then, unfortunately, then got to go. Yeah, so here she is. Unfortunately, there we go. One shot's explaining her plan. This is your big downfall. You don't do that. And then, of course, we have to get back to the fact that Toro Calican then makes, of course, the mistake of trying to go after the Mandalorian, and then, well, he gets wasted.
Yeah, say he takes Baby Yoda hostage, and there's your first mistake. The child is not to be touched by anybody else. No. And once the Mandalorian finds out, he gets back with the ride, realizes he's not there, travels for what must have taken him ages to get back to Mos Eisley on the dewback, and then proceeds. Yeah, this guy gets wasted as well. He's gone. His episode arc is done when he's shot and killed. And I love how the pit droids then instruct just to get rid of him. I don't know, was it take him to
Beggar's Canyon?
Beggar's Canyon.
Last of the references, and again, I was like, oh, really? Why Beggar's Canyon?
That one didn't bother me so much because that maybe by some place like that would be known for, like, if you're in Mos Eisley and they want to dump a body, I'm thinking Beggar's Canyon probably is somewhere that you would maybe do that. So that one didn't bother me as much. Didn't rub me up the wrong way as some of the other line ratings that we had. But yeah, you're right. It's again another line that just kind of, look, it's remember those movies that you love? This is the same thing. We know. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And it was just this. For me, the reason why I didn't like it is because it felt like the last of the references.
Yeah.
And it was just an episode full of them, just full too much. And the problem is it gives us an episode where there was potential all over the shop, and it got completely and utterly wasted. I mean, yes, okay, he steals Baby Yoda. Of course, no one's supposed to touch Baby Yoda. Only Mandy can touch Baby Yoda unless he gives them to someone specifically. And the woman who's looking after the Razor's Crest earns his trust in keeping hold of it. And then, of course, that the pit droids putting in Beggar's Canyon, I felt was cheap. If they'd left that had been the only other reference, that would have been great. But again, it just felt, I don't know, the whole episode felt like a cheap series of references with poor action and some really good points that could have been turned into something great, and everything just felt wasted.
I think the moment it was set on Tatooine is where it kind of lost its big appeal. That you kind of stopped paying attention to the story, and then you're right. If you'd, like you said earlier, if you'd gone to any other part of Tatooine that we hadn't been before, you wouldn't have been as drawn away. But when you're walking down streets that you've seen before, when you walk into a cantina that you know how much it means to the story that we're being told over this 40-year period, and you are taken through things that you've seen sand people and dewbacks, and it just kind of drew all of my attention away from the story. And I think it was the poorer for it. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm just toying out on this episode. I did sit with us. The first showing, I smiled completely all the way through because of what I was seeing. But I'm a huge sucker for nostalgia. I mean, literally, you could show me a little thing from Star Wars and I might weep. I'm a 41-year-old man nearly, so that tends to happen. I just cry at these things. But it's, yeah, I did smile all the way through, but then on second view, and you're kind of like, well, I've seen that now, and that's lovely, but now give me my story. And that's where I found lacked, that we just didn't get the story I think we needed. Yeah. And I think we've kind of put that in our main point. Where do you kind of draw the line at, right, with nostalgia versus moving the story forward? And that's what was missing.
Well, the thing of this episode is episode 5. We've got 3 episodes to go.
Yeah.
And considering the length of the episodes we have so far,
an hour and a half-ish.
There's not a lot to go on. Maybe 2 hours at the most if the last 2 are 45 minutes. Yeah. So there's not a lot of screen time left to go. And this episode, last week we were like, this is great. This is some really cool stuff. But next week we need them to be the story forward. And we kind of had said that the week before. After episode 3, we were like, okay, 3 was great. 4, we'd like a little bit more storyline, please. But it's fine. It is what it is. Episode 4, like, this is the halfway point. This is great. We've got the ATST. Feels a bit like Jurassic Park. The whole thing has a Clone Wars vibe. It's wicked. Last week's episode was great. Okay, again, we would like a little bit more story progression. However, of course, he's being hunted. Someone's come for Baby Yoda at the end. Okay, great. We have a bit more progression. Next week, let's please just have a full-on... And the problem is, when you mix too much nostalgia with not enough plot line, wasted characters, you take the recipe that's for something that should have been great, and it ends up being the weakest episode by far. And unfortunately, by a country mile, and again, it's not the problem of what they've shown, it's just how they've gone about showing it. Again, so as I said, if they go somewhere else in Tatooine, if Ming-Na Wen's character doesn't get wasted, if they get a better actor to play Toro Calican, if the Sand People aren't used in that way, it's a great story with some really good points to go forward, and it just wasn't what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
and
I think
it's sad.
Yeah, and I think the biggest kind of thing you take from this is that the majority, although we've seen all these amazing images, what's taken from and what really excited people is literally the last 4 seconds of an episode. That's really got people debating and excited, and you shouldn't have that where you forget everything else in the episode to concentrate on just 4 seconds of some feat.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto that in just a second. So it's one of those things. So before we get on to the last part of the episode, so one real something again I just had is my mate again agreeing with me, saying it just feels like an episode full of cheap references that could have been more. The other good point I want to bring up is I can't remember her name off the top of my head. It's bugging me. Is the person who played the woman who was looking after his ship. She was one of the bright sparks in this episode. I felt she not only played her role well, but gave the Mandalorian some form of hope in terms of the pit droids. I think, again, it's a good little point. Again, not being Document 94 at least saved it there. And
I love the version of droids still as well. That he really, since that battle droid when he was a kid, his aversion to droids has been something that's one of his major sticking points. Although he didn't seem to mind the one in the cantina that he was talking to, but the rest of the droids he's not had any sort of time for at all.
Yeah, well, the one in the course in the cantina, you're never going to complain with someone who's giving you a pint as long as they give you a pint. We're all at the age now. We full well know this. As long as you don't mess around the barman, as long as you get your pint, everything's fine. So this is one of those things. Unfortunately, Kelsey wanted his work, and that led to him meeting Toro Calican. Maybe if you go to a different bar, he would have been fine. We never know this. But again, yes, I agree with the whole droid part. Again, I like that recurring theme. I'm wondering if we're going to find out why. I think in one of the future flashbacks, we may find out why. Maybe it's the whole Clone Wars feel. Maybe it's being taken by Super Droid. That may leave a mark on you for dealing with droids. I mean, I think that would leave a mark for most people. However, might as well move it on. Let's talk about the 4 seconds that everyone has been talking about. It is sad that this episode has only produced 4 seconds worth out of 34 minutes or 31 minutes of screen time that we can talk about. But let's talk about this. Talk about the feet and the body being turned over. So, it's one of those things of course, so the episode ends, everything's wrapped up in this, messy bow. Ming-Na Wen's character, so Fennec Shand, is dead. this particular point. She's been killed. She's been long dead. Everyone's leaving the planet. Toro is being dragged off unmercilessly to Beggar's Canyon to be left for time, and we have these feet come over, turn the body over, and it's who has turned it over and why. This is the bit of the story moving forward, but who's done it and why is the interesting part. So someone is hunting down who's it's going to be.
Logically, this is the guy we're expecting from Breaking Bad. I'm really sorry, I can't remember his name, his character name that's coming up.
Yeah,
logically, it's him. But the fan in me and the one who's loving this show and some of the throwbacks we have been given, I want this to be Cad Bane so much. I really, really want this to be Cad Bane.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be Cad Bane? Cad Bane was awesome. Cad Bane's one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars for a reason. The guy he outsmarted Jedi. He nearly kills Kenobi. He is fiercely intelligent, and he was one of the best characters to come out of a series that gave us Hondo Ohnaka. I mean, come on. Like, he is top tier awesome. And if he was in this show, I think the fans would lose their minds. And again, considering the line, Dave Filoni said he has someone that he knew come up to him in character, dressed up, and we don't know who that is yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why my line, that's exactly what he says. A character he created came up to him in full dress. He was in full costume as that character, and it blew Dave Filoni's mind. So that's what makes me think, if you're going to give us 3 more episodes, surely this could be Cad Bane. Honest. If it does, I will squeal like a little child. I will. Again, I'll cry because I'm 41 and that's what happens. But it's dream like that. That could be. If again, I go back logically that it probably isn't, and it probably is the guy who's now going to be the big bad for the last 3 episodes. God, I would love us to give us a bounty hunter against bounty hunter, a real bounty hunter we know. And an introduction to that bounty hunter for some people who never watched the animated series. And I think that would be really interesting to see that take on it as well. But, oh, God, that would make me so happy.
So, coming in from John Part saying, wouldn't Cad Bane be odd now? Yeah, and?
Yeah, I don't care. Old Man Logan was, although I guess he had different reasons.
He'd only be in his 60s by this point. Maybe 70s, depending on how it is. It's fine. It's just one of those things. Come on, if we're going to have nostalgia,
stop being logical. I can't have you being logical when I'm hoping for Cad Bane.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to go down this road of wanting nostalgia, give us the nostalgia everyone wants. Give us Hondo Ohnaka for crying out loud. Come on, if you're going to do it that way, give us someone we love. And to be fair, again, it's one of those characters of everyone would love it, and it'd be, as you said, great introduction to those who haven't seen the Clone Wars in time for the Clone Wars to come back next year and then go back and rediscover it all. I think that's one of the great things about Disney Plus will do. It will give those who haven't seen the shows a chance to watch the Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance and other things that we love about this particular franchise. And yeah, Cad Bane would be one of those characters that if you showed up, we would all squeal like logos. We would all love it. We would, as long as he's used correctly. Again, that's the point. As long as he's used correctly.
I wouldn't want him in and then be shot inside of 4 seconds inside of an episode and be gone. So if they couldn't use him properly, then yes, don't use him at all. You're right.
However, I have a feeling it might be Bill Murray's character.
Yeah, is that Breaking Bad guy? Is that Gus? Yeah, cool. Sorry, I didn't know. I know it's awful to not know the character's name or the actor's name, but he's so synonymous with that one thing.
I haven't seen Breaking Bad, so I don't know him as Gus. I just know the actor who's getting in it, of course.
Logically, yes, it's probably going to be.
He's the guy, of course, with the 2 guns.
I'm allowed to dream, Phil. I'm allowed to dream.
Hey! I want it to be Cad Bane. Do you not think I'm not agreeing with you? I love Cad Bane. Cad Bane is awesome. He has a wicked voice. He's a cool hat. He's another guy. As a guy who's obsessed with hats, I mean, how can you not like him? He is cool. But we haven't seen it again. He's the guy with 2 guns on the shoulder, 2 guns in his hand, blast his way. That's to come. That looks cool.
Yeah, I forgot about that from the trailer. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's not in the desert somewhere. So it could be Cad Bane. You never know. The end of the season could just be Cad Bane rocking up for start of season 2. I mean, come on. Season 2 of Clone Wars ended with a Cad Bane episode, leading us into the Bounty Hunters of season 3. So this would be a great way to lead into season 2. You never know.
I'm really excited to find out, even if it is who we expect it to be. And I just want that now. I want that progression to kind of go, right, look, we've got now 3 episodes left. We have to round out this story arc by the time we finish the season. I can't see the Yoda thing being carried over to the second season. It doesn't seem to me to make sense logically to have that. to go and to carry that over. And it's the same sort of thing as protecting this child. I would have thought by the time we get to the last episode, he will have found where he wants to take the child, and we'll maybe end up with some kind of standoff of him getting into that place and getting rid of everybody who's chasing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the child will either end up safe or dead.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no in between of that. It has to go one way or the other, and it has to be those extremes: safe and hidden, or
I know where I'd like him to go. I'd love him to end up with Luke on wherever the Luke's Jedi Academy is set up. I would love that to be the ending.
Episode 9, he just pops his head in.
Yes. Yeah. Wait, you survived? Great. We could use this character. Awesome. No, I mean, I don't think he'd pop up in episode 9 because again, he'd only be what? He'd only be in his early 70s by that point. He'd still be a kid. He'd be a toddler by this point. So we don't really. That won't be natural. But I would like him to go to there because, of course, being Luke. This kid being Jedi, Force sensitive, she should end up there. I think that's me a bit of fan service going. I would love him to end up in that place. I though could quite easily see him going the other way, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a surprise at all. I think if they got rid of the child at the end for some reason or another, even if it's something that the Mandalorian has to do. For reasons that he can't keep this child safe, and that there's only one thing for this guy. Otherwise, he's going to every day of his life he's going to be chased down. I'll do it myself rather than everybody else.
It has to end up. Yeah, I agree with you. It has to end up one way or the other.
Yeah,
but they need to get to that point. The next 3. I mean, the last one will be story driven, obviously. The next 3, so the next 2 episodes before the finale, have to be story driven by this particular point. So I'll close the episode, our episode, by talking about this. I really think it needs to go forward. If it doesn't, we're in trouble.
Yeah, you're right. And we need to I hope we're going to get some longer episodes. Like you said, 45 minutes for the last. I hope we get I'd love to get feature length finale. Like we have done with you get Rebels. I know they put some episodes together to do that, but I thought they would have had now time to say, look, if we're going to finish the series, we want a feature length last episode. I would like to see that we're going to get more time.
I don't think feature length. I think an hour. I think you get an hour
so something longer than now. 32 minutes isn't. So an hour and a half now for 3 episodes to finish the story out doesn't feel to me to be enough. It might be. Obviously, they've done this. The film, they're all edited and done. They're coming. But I hope they've played. I can't doubt they haven't played out really well. I'm sure they've got a great story plan. But just for me, obviously not knowing what's coming, I hope they've got this really planned. I do hope we get some more time to spend on this first season.
Yeah, agreed. So I think the finale needs to be an hour. The episode before it needs to be an hour or at least 45 minutes. The next episode can be 30 minutes, but has to be story-driven.
Yeah.
From here on in, if it's not story-driven, I guess we're in trouble because it won't end well. Don't get me wrong, I love filler where filler is needed, but at this point we've gone from, hey, it's filler, this is okay, to, okay, we need story, to, okay, at this point, yeah, we need story.
Yeah.
All 3 of us, we love the show, but progressively we've all got to the point we've gone, okay, storyline now.
Forward, get us forward, yeah.
Because when we know we've only got 8 episodes, when it's something like Resistance, where it's 19 episodes for this second and final season that you and I are reviewing currently, we know there are going to be filler episodes. We talked about the back-to-back creature features. It was like, okay, all right, we can figure it because there's 19 episodes. They're 20 minutes a piece, and when you divide that by 2, you do get basically 9.5 episodes. So for 8 episodes, at this point where you've had these 2 filler episodes, okay, you need storyline because you've only got that. You got a smaller chunk. Yes, you have more time, but with these episodes being only 10 minutes longer than the cartoons, there's not overall. Actually, there isn't that much extra screen time.
No, not at all.
And I think, unfortunately, that's where it's going to have to go. But I think that's where we're going to leave it though for this particular episode. Is nostalgia great to a point. However, it felt like cheap references. And they spoiled a bit for me, the Tusken Raiders, and Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec Shand, was completely wasted.
Nostalgia, the nostalgia does not outweigh story. Nostalgia has to be underneath that. Story has to be the main point, with some nostalgia built around that, but story has to be paramount in moving us forward towards the end of the series.
Yeah.
But it still made me smile, and I loved all the images I saw.
Well, it's a point you made earlier. It's a point we'll end on, the fact that you watched it for the first time, loved it, and then second, third viewing, it's like, okay, no, done with it. For me, I watched it once and I was done with it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately the other episodes I've gone back and rewatched them all at least once. I've scheduled so many plane tickets. I am so broke at the moment. I keep going back to the States, and it's been worth it. But for this one, I just removed it and booked another flight for next week to see the next episode twice, just because I had to. You know, it's just the way forward. It's where it's going to have to be. But I think that'll be our closing thoughts this evening. I don't think, Dave, you got anything else to add to it?
No, just again, thank you very much for being involved in the episode, John. Thank you very much for watching along. And I know George was watching along while he was driving home, so that was great. I'm sure he had it safely while he was driving home. But yeah, so thanks for being part of this and joining in with us. It really does mean the world to us when people are actually here to join in the chat and talk to us. We have some things coming up. Phill and I will be back, Resistance, but we are getting closer and closer to the Rise of Skywalker, which is crazy. We are, tomorrow we are 10 days out.
Yeah, it's what we were talking about before we came on air, just realising how mental our schedule is going to be for the next couple of weeks. But I'm sure you guys out there will love it all, so we've got so much content coming. So yes, Dave and I are back tomorrow for our Resistance show. We'll have our Mandalorian breakdown Saturday next week with George. So the three of us are back for that. The Monday will be, following that will be our Resistance show. The Tuesday, most likely, we're looking at doing, if we don't do it Monday, will be our Rise of Skywalker preview show. Wednesday, we're not going to give you too many details at the moment because we haven't quite planned out how we are going to work out our filming schedule, but the three of us will be in London. We will be watching the Rise of Skywalker premiere. George will give us some shots from the actual premiere itself. We'll then have some live videos probably on Facebook from us meeting up. The three of us will be together. We'll shoot some form of spoiler-free review afterwards. Of course, after that, we've got a Resistance, a Mandalorian, and a spoiler-filled breakdown and final Resistance episode before our winter break coming up on December 27th. So, lots to come, and we still haven't quite figured out all of it because we're only just realising how mental our schedule is going to be. But, as per always, thank you so much for watching. I'm not going to drag this out too long because Dave's arm's killing him. I can already see it from his already his stand in play. But yes, so thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find the video for this on our YouTube and Facebook pages. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Once the Force Stars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. You can find the audio for this version later on Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify. Merch can be found below in our TeePublic store, which will be in the description down below. Until next time, which will be this time next week for Mandalorian, and of course back on Monday, and the rest of it, as I already said, we've been Once the Force. May the Force Stars be with you. Good night.